All right, and we are live. So actually, you got a little bit of an early start. Jumped in here about 15 seconds early. Usually we're about 2 minutes late, so trying to change things up. So today it's actually going to just be me. We actually won't have Ralph joining us today. I had actually moved the meeting because I'll be gone tomorrow. I'll be out of town actually. So I asked Ralph if we could do it Thursday. He said, yep. And we're supposed to be doing it today together. Unfortunately, he got a flight delay and now I think stuck somewhere in Chicago or maybe on his way back to wherever he was traveling. So I'm not exactly sure where he was going, but it's just going to be me today. So we're going to start off with kind of a new feeder strategy. So we have a feeder strategy for search. We have a feeder strategy for shopping. The feeder strategy in shopping is actually something that we used Performance Max for with Performance Max's new update that came out in October that said Performance Max is no longer going to compete with standard shopping. And it's going to allow the campaign that has the better ad rank to go ahead and kind of, take control. And so we structure that in a way that obviously we can have standard shopping be the feeder, where Performance Max simply just does the remarketing of it. And it got me kind of thinking. I said, what if instead of using it just for shopping, what if we were able to kind of bring this back for search? And so Performance Max for search is, when you're not using a feed, when you're using lead generation, Performance Max for search is usually pretty crappy, usually pretty terrible. Usually what ends up happening with Performance Max for search is you get a whole bunch of junk leads. Those junk leads don't actually ever produce anything in terms of good quality kind of performance. And you get a whole bunch of, just lackluster performance. It starts to spiral out of control. It starts to spiral out of control specifically in the YouTube area. Now, most people have not been able to identify why Performance Max for leads, for lead generation, why it fails. And we've been actually able to use edge technology into identifying the actual campaign that those spam leads were coming from. And what we found out is that when Performance Max has YouTube assets, when it has video assets, when it has something that is able to be produced either from Performance Max itself, which is Google, which is those AI, or when it actually has video campaigns that you are able to run on, video assets you can run on YouTube. YouTube is actually where the spam comes in. And what we identified is the last click kind of referral ID, which was like mobile.yt. The URL was, you could tell it's coming from mobile users from YouTube. And so it got me kind of thinking. So two things have happened. Performance Max kind of deprioritized itself. Google hopefully, kind of took his head out of its ass and said, hey, you know what? This is not the be all end all performance, campaign. It wasn't Performance Max at all. It was performance, sometimes performance min. That's my dad joke. But what ended up happening, and let me just make sure that everything is good here with audio. I have no one here to tell me that no one can hear me. So hopefully everything looks good. If you can hear me, if everything sounds good, looks good, give me a thumbs up with the comment. Hey, Ollie. Hey, Soren. Hey, John Moran's dog. It's really weird to say as John Moran and looking at my dog over here. But let me know if you can hear me. If it's coming through clear, great. Because sometimes people, can't tell if they're on the wrong mic and no one can hear me. So I just want to make sure everything's going smoothly today. But it got me thinking. So Performance Max has been deprioritized, and prior to this, it was like the be all end all. If you started something on Google Ads and then you launch Performance Max, it's Performance Max's job to go over and overtake everything. And so what happens when you don't use video assets, which is something that you can, thanks Ollie, if you can hear me, that's awesome. Thank you very much for letting me know. With Performance Max, what if you don't put any sort of video assets in there? What if you don't obviously use a feed? So something that is not going to be, getting the shopping. What if we're using this for search? And what if we use OIC only? So offline conversion action imports. Can we develop a feeder strategy for search by leveraging now what Performance Max does not do, which is overtake everything? And what if we can also know that the pitfall of Performance Max, usually delivering really crappy junk leads, is coming from YouTube, which I'll explain here in a moment. Can we develop a feeder strategy using search and Performance Max? So I spent about 10 grand last 3 days, and here's what I found. I had this kind of going before and after, and so I'll kind of share with you the results of that. But I want to kind of address why Performance Max gets a whole bunch of bad spammy leads. What ends up happening is that because Performance Max is using the area for activity to dictate where it starts to spend more, and when it uses the area of activity to identify that, it then starts to push more into that area of activity, hoping and waiting for conversions to come out from it. So it says, hey, I'm starting to get impressions over here. I'm starting to get clicks. I'm starting to get engagement. This looks like it could be good. Let's allocate more ad spend to it. That channel sometimes is YouTube. And if you ever had YouTube spam, it's very similar. What ends up happening is you can actually see where your click-through rates are like 4, 5, and 600%, or where your views are 1 view, 5 clicks, 5 leads. What ends up happening when you're looking at your YouTube campaigns, and I'll see, actually, you know what? Give me like 2 seconds of doing this by myself, so you're going to have some kind of lulls, but I'm going to share with you an area where I'm hoping to find some spam, and you're all going to look at this for the first time with me, as I haven't checked this in a couple weeks. So I'm going to see if I can find an account, and I know I have an account that runs YouTube at a high level, and I'm going to see if I can find some spam, because I want you all to see how this actually works. And let me do this. I'm going to share screen here. And I'm going to, again, I'm a little slower today as I'm by myself. All right, so that should pull up. Cool, look at this. I know how to do things by myself. It's a miracle. So check this out. So I want to go into let's go to a high spend, kind of a longer time YouTube campaign. So I'm going to go back to like June, starting descending in cost. Spend about 115 grand here. Let's do this one. So I spent 115 grand here, and then we go into insights reports, where ads showed, go into where ads showed here, and then, yep, I already did it. Drop down by click-through rate. Watch this. So you can actually see channel no longer available. This is because of us. What we end up doing is whenever we start to see these areas, we report them. And what I mean by report them is you have 18 impressions, 11 views, and 127 clicks. No wonder why YouTube removed that channel. That channel's gone. Now, when you look at all of these other ones here, and some of them have some kind of weird names, so I'm not going to read them out loud. But when you have 1 view, 1 impression, 1 view, and 6 clicks. Now, we use OIC here. So this is how we stop this, is OIC, offline importation of conversion actions. Means that we actually don't import anything unless it's good quality. And you can see there's a lot of spam here. The click-through rates are 400%, 500, 600, 700%. That's not possible. I mean, it's possible, but it's not real. No one's going to be seeing something, 1 impression, 1 view, and 4 clicks. So this is where usually your spam comes from. And this is usually where the spam comes from in Performance Max. This whole first page is spam. 50 YouTube channels in spam, over 200% click-through rate. This is very easily identifiable. Now, you can already see that I'm not counting these junk leads. That's by design. That's by structure. So this whole YouTube right now, or this whole YouTube live right now, could be on how to identify spam inside of YouTube. So if you get nothing else, this is my little side bonus here for you guys. But when you have a singular impression and a singular view, but 100 clicks or 7 clicks, this is what happens. These channels here, and I'm going to call one out because, I like to be edgy. So future forecasting group, what may be happening here, what is probably happening here, maybe not, but what probably is future forecasting group, the YouTube channel, goes and pays click farms and bots to go and visit their YouTube channel, watch an ad, click on the ad, and then go convert. And they pay for that because as they get more engagement into their YouTube channel, they get more money per view. Their ad revenue increases as more activity happens. So what do? They buy the activity. Now, who's the beneficiary of all this junk shit leads? Us and our clients. And that's what ends up happening. Now, in Performance Max, you don't get that. You don't get the issue there. And I'm going to pull that case up here in a moment. You don't get that issue in Performance Max that's easily identifiable. You're just like, well, shit, I have 127 spam leads. I don't know where they came from. They just popped up one day. You don't have the ability to look at the where ads showed in the YouTube portion of Performance Max, but that's where they come in from. So if you're getting spam from lead generation Performance Max, that is typically where it ends up happening. So try to pull out your video assets, make sure no video assets are being developed there. That's one thing that could be. I have like an 80% success rate with removing spam leads from Performance Max by just removing the video allocation, video assets, and making sure that your AI generated videos are not being created, or if they do, make sure you remove them. That should complete the spam issue. So now that we have a few things, we know that OIC will not send YouTube portion of Performance Max down the wrong area, because if they're not quality, they don't get imported. Google doesn't see them as a signal, and they don't just get continually spammed. So when you remove the videos, then OSC, then when you remove the videos, that stops that channel. So he thought, okay, can we develop a feeder strategy for search using Performance Max, and can this start to work? So here's my case study, and this is kind of a two-part case study. It came about just from the natural progression of what we're trying to do. And I'll take you back a little bit at the beginning. This one campaign here called ROAS Hub has a lot, 18 ad groups. These all used to be individual campaigns. The problem is Google, in its infinite wisdom, got rid of, phrase exact match and turned everything into kind of like semi-broad everywhere, which now means that none of these campaigns can actually do keyword filtering and push the right keywords to the right third-party school that ends up buying our leads. So this is a campaign that we end up generating leads of adults with a high school degree with no college experience that want to go to college. Fairly niche. So we need to make sure that these leads are sold before we tell Google, good job, give me more. Especially in Performance Max. This would be the immediate death of us if we did this on Performance Max without these two steps, the YouTube and the OIC. But now that we've combined all of our multiple search campaigns into one big search campaign, separated them out by ad group, our normal thing still applies. We still, and you can even see conflicting negative keywords. This is what we're trying to solve for. But now we can actually kind of like push and pull activity in and out of the campaigns by a target ROAS goal by the ad group, but still give this 25 grand a day and try to get this thing up to a nice $25,000 per day in ad spend. It's a fairly good sizable account, right? Fairly sizable campaign for sure. Like this is not a small thing. This is what we're trying to get up to. I mean, if we can get up to 100, 200K a day, excellent. So as we started to produce this, these new campaigns, I said, what if we did this? And I made another little small change. So it's just, if I refresh this, may even just go back to being eligible. I'm not sure. I made the change kind of like an hour ago. So I'm just waiting for this thing to come back. So it's not come back yet. So we'll kind of continue moving forward, but I'll still show everything. So inside the search campaign, we have $25,000 a day. That last, 3 days spent 10 grand. And we can see this kind of ramping up. At the same time, I have a PMAX campaign that is going to the same pages as, or the same page as this campaign is here. And what it's doing is going to be remarketing all of the people that bring it in for search. So again, feeder strategy, but the same feeder strategy applies. My main campaign with direct response, inbound search that can be scaled is primary. That's 9 Gs. My secondary campaign is lower CPC, higher TROAS, and can I get this to bring up the overall activity of my main campaign, which is this one over here. So I need to solve for two things. I need scale, I need a mini funnel, and search feeder won't do that. Remember, feeder strategy on search is max clicks, TROAS, one feeds the other, good to go. What about the people that don't convert and don't come back into the Google fold and search the brand name? If that doesn't happen, how do we capture those people? And that's where my Performance Max come in, because we have no meta. We have just Google. That's it for this entire company. So what we did is launched a Performance Max campaign that have the asset group that is very similar to the search campaign. So I'll share with you the signals. I'll share with you the assets. But what this does is this is actually the same headlines, the same URL, all this stuff here. I was not, and I'm literally typing in like long headlines A, so I don't get long headlines, and I don't jump into like Gmail. So I'm actually purposely like putting an A so that hopefully it doesn't get any more engagement out of this. I'm using some images. I'm using obviously the business name. I have a logo, no video though. It's very important. No video. And an automated call to action. I'm just using this right now to see, can I start to identify more people within inside of the search network to come in, but also on display for doing remarketing. I don't really care about YouTube. I really don't care about Gmail and Discover, but hopefully I can see some good remarketing from this and see how this is going to start to grow. So what's nice about this is this campaign is actually starting to spend now. And the main search campaign, this is what I want this to get to, is I need this to start to hit goal, and I need this to scale. And I needed the Performance Max campaign to do so, because we've been trying for weeks and we have not been able to get this campaign or this company to really scale up. Not anything that's more consistent. And we need to get this to an area where we can continually grow it so that negative keywords aren't an issue. Keyword sculpting is not an issue. We can control the ad spend with all of the campaigns. So if they overlap, that's fine. It's still sharing one big ad spend, but it's not say, well, that campaign is now going down because this campaign is going up. So, it's wishy-washy and everything's kind of switching back and forth. Everything's sharing one big campaign is growing all the small ones, and I got to bolt on PMAX. So what's interesting is the cost actually went down in PMAX from 721 down to 110. Now the cost per conversion also dropped, but the ROAS has started to go up. The conversion rate has started to go up, and the conversions are not actually really going down by too much. It's actually just kind of like holding tight here, but I'm getting a lot more engagement. And so when I'm looking at the difference between these two, I'm hoping that this 200% TROAS that started off with a high spend and crashed down and then is going to start to ramp up a bit, can start to have a good top line performance. And I think it's starting to, because whenever I see this start to spike up, whenever I see in feeder strategy a Performance Max working better, the standard shopping campaign blows to the moon. And that's what I want. I want the standard shopping campaign to hit goal with split attribution and then go up to essentially keep going up to the moon. So this campaign spent 215% more. So we went from $2,900 to $9,100. Cost per conversion in the main campaign dropped 21%, which is really good because this one dropped 84%, which actually brought down my entire account by 40%. Excellent. So I spent $2,500 less. Again, we're ramping this up, and this is only the last couple of days. So I spent $2,500 less, but my CPA went 40% down in app, which is good. And I say in app because I'm okay with this because it's all OIC. This is actual stuff that we have imported, saying that, yes, I generated a lead. We sold it to the school. The school paid us money, and then we imported that paid money back into Google Ads. So this is not speculative or this is actual, like, no, this is the actual top line cost because it's only OIC. Now, the ROAS is up 63% in the account and 51% between these two, which is really good. This is starting to head in the right direction. We're purposely skewing the actual revenue down inside of Google Ads because this account historically never really got above 90. So we actually, once we hit it to like 110 and 120, we just took 20% out. So if we actually make $100, we send 80 to Google. I don't know why. Google really likes just hitting 1x. So we're like, well, let's just fluff it. So if it makes 150, take out 50. Makes 200, take out 100. Just tell Google that we can never get over 100 and it scales. So that was something that worked really, really, really well. We actually remove some value in the attribution, pre-sending it through OIC. So when it pops up, we kind of hit goal. But it's actually 20% higher than what we see. So this is actually 104%. Anything over 100% is just pure profit. And we're going to get this thing up to 25 grand a day. And we just weren't able to get it there. But the conversion rate going up from 0.45 to 3.27 or 1.23 in the account up to 3.12. That is huge. That is huge. The account, not just these two campaigns, the entire account is up 154%. Good. That's what we want. Our CPCs are up 55% and are up 382% between the two. Yes, like this is PMAX Hub. What's funny is when it first started off was doing just remarketing. Now you can kind of see this hopping into search. Performance Max is still going to try to overtake search. Fine. I'm okay if you can get a better ROAS and go into search. The CPCs, the reason why we really couldn't get over 100% ROAS is because the CPCs were massive. And so hopefully if I can do a little bit of remarketing plus a bit of secondary click and conversion through like basically an RLSA, which is what Performance Max likes to do by choice anyway, I can get the CPCs down globally. So it's up here, but it's not down there yet. So that's what we're going to be waiting to see is, will Performance Max split search and split display? Will it remarket and will it get really high value clicks, but at a better return on ad spend that also allows this to scale up? So it's pretty interesting. Conversion rate when it went from display to search went from 0.03 to 2.27, but it's spending less CPC. So it's actually coming out better. So Performance Max is actually starting to work kind of well. It is really interesting to see how this works. You can even see the impressions like 685,000. Okay, fine, down to 2,800. Like it, as soon as I started to push on search and as soon as it started to perform better, Performance Max did what? I'm going to try to do that too. So it's almost like still trying to overtake, still trying to follow. It's just not able to do that. One, obviously, because we have such crazy budgets, $25,000 a day versus $650. But two, my TROAS targets are higher. So I'm purposely trying to make it a lower ad rank. Lower ad rank, usually lower CPC. When you want a more profit, it can't spend higher CPC. So it's pushing ad rank down on purpose, which is forcing it cheaper CPCs, but also following it because it's usually secondary click. That's the feeder strategy. Your first click in high intent inbound search, good placement. The second click, Performance Max just waiting to convert and waiting to take credit for everything else's hard work. Good. I want to leverage it. That's the point there. So these two here are working together, theoretically. in order for us to push Performance Max out of display, push it back into search, get this thing to try to beat my search campaign. But because it can't take priority anymore, because it's a lower ad rank, it's simply now following along always. And that's the feeder strategy that hopefully, if this is working, we'll see a continuous scale up to, $25,000 a day. It's gaining it pretty well. I don't know where it's at today. Let me just see where we're spending today. $800. So we'll see where this thing goes. But this is something where, I think this is it's working well so far. So for the cost to go down in the account 15%, but the conversion rate to go up 154% and a ROAS to go up 63% and the conversion value to go up 40%. Yeah. Anytime you take cost down 14% and increase conversion value by 40, that's good. And this all conversion value, it's actually OIC. And you'll see that the all conversion value is only not when we generate a conversion, but when we sell it to the school. So that's where you'll see 253. We sold 64 already. So that's what's cool is we've developed 253, sold 64. PMax has developed 5, we sold 1. Excellent. We generate the lead, we sell it. Once we sell it, Google only sees what we sell. And that is going to stop the Performance Max from trying to go to YouTube, getting a whole bunch of junk conversions, getting a lead from those conversions, patting itself on the back and blasting spam to the moon. That's what ends up happening. It spirals out of control on itself because it identifies activity, must be good. Identifies leads, must be better. Dumps more ad spend into it, gets more spam leads, must be even better. We got to stop all that. We got to make sure it's OIC, make sure there's no YouTube. But I know we've been talking only for 21 minutes, but we have a new feeder strategy for search with Performance Max. And you also found out probably how to remove the Performance Max spam, the areas as to which you can identify and stop that. And even push YouTube out of Performance Max into its own YouTube campaign until Google screws that up next year where they get rid of YouTube and push it all into demand gen. We'll have a new strategy. I'm testing it right now. We have a new strategy for that coming soon. So that'll be something to stay tuned for. But yeah, it's insanity what Google's doing. But I like some things. I hate some things. I like the fact that it deprioritized Performance Max. I hate the fact that it's going to kick YouTube in the shorts. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, between that interim, you can pull it out of Performance Max, put it into YouTube, keep YouTube clean with looking at the click-through rates. If they're above 30%, you're probably getting some spam. Make sure to remove those channels like you saw after I removed the channel. I also made a complaint. Google wiped that channel. Pretty cool stuff. So Google does seemingly kind of have our back when it's the obvious one where it says one impression, one view, and 127 clicks. It's like, all right, I can see the spam there. So that's an area that we found in Performance Max of a spam and everything for lead generation. But these 2 steps to protect ourselves should keep that clean. And the 3rd step of adding the feeder strategy is good. The 4th step of making sure that the TROAS targets are purposely making the Performance Max have 5 a less ad rank. So that was 22 minutes. Hopefully, hopefully that went well. I'm doing this just kind of on my own. So we might have to kind of play this back at half speed because there's no one there stopping me asking questions and all that kind of stuff. But let me get into some questions to see if you guys have any questions so far about this strategy and how to stop the Performance Max from spamming the crap out of you and your clients and your customers and the world. I hate it. I hate how much that Google just allows that to flow through and then charges you for it. Like it's like a con. It's like, here's your spam. Thank you for your money. Then I'll see you in court. Like that's basically what happens. So, it's up to us to protect ourselves. So hopefully this is working. All right. Get into a couple questions here. I doubled the company revenue in 3 months, combining standard shopping with Performance Max. Nice. The company is under 1 year old, hitting all-time high revenue month over month in the past 3 months using feeder strategy. That is amazing. So thank you for everything you preach. You are very, very welcome. That's cool. That's really, really cool. I'm so happy, Soren, that's working for you. It's awesome to see success stories. I always have the imposter syndrome because I'm like, it worked for me. I'm like, who else did it help or hurt? So anytime I hear hey, it's working, it's good. It gives me, hope that this stuff is working and gives me some encouragement to continue on with the, new strategies that we can develop. So appreciate that, Soren. Thank you so much. All right. John Moran's dog. So I just say my dog. Does Tier 11 manage the client's MER goal exclusively when overseeing all media channels? Or do you also manage MER goal if the client handles certain channels in-house, such as meta ads? Yes. So here's what's interesting. We try to manage all media. The Tier 11 is kind of like an all or nothing type of company. We should be able to manage your media buying. We should be producing your creative. And we also have data suite to tie everything in together so you know what's going on using your real metrics. Not like, impressions, click, ROAS, CPA, all that stuff. This is more like, CAC, MER, LTV, ECPNV, all of the actual metrics that matter to your business health, regardless of channel, honestly, really. But we usually try to manage it. If we cannot manage it, if we're not in control, what we usually do is work with the client to establish those baseline targets and say, here, our global NCAC cannot go over X. Our LTV has to maintain, this type of longevity. Our ECPNV should not be going over $2, and if it does, we shouldn't be adding in any more ad spend. So we kind of teach the client, here's what to look for, how to manage it, and make sure that everything is healthy. Because if the business metrics, doesn't matter what channel, if the business metrics are off, it's an all hands on deck from all the channels. What ends up usually happening, though, is that if we're running just Meta or just Google, we start to see other things in other channels start to go bad, like it's overspending on brand, focusing too much on ROAS, and then they start adding in ad spend. And so then you're like, okay, why is my MER dropping and why is my NCAC increasing? And that's, you can kind of see using Data Suite, which all clients of tier 11 have Data Suite. It's like, see how, like maybe Meta, which could be the channel that we're matching, see how all of those benchmarked metrics on the third-party platform are good. Look at Google. Google's been increasing its ad spend, 60%. The ECPNV has gone up 80% because it's doing more remarketing, more brand. So it's actually costing you more money to bring in people who are first-time users to the site. The attributable ROAS and that probably looks good, but it actually didn't contribute any more conversions. So can we pull that back? It becomes clear as day. And now it's up to the client to go then explain to his or her vendor, hey, you guys got to pull back. And then they usually find out from the vendor vendee, no, everything looks great in app. Like, see how much like ROAS we have. And it's like, then now the client kind of feels awkward because it's like, I know this better than you now. Like, it's kind of embarrassing. So that is usually what ends up happening, where they just kind of hire us for everything. So you can, but it becomes like a master class, and it doesn't actually, honestly, it doesn't really become worth it. It really doesn't. We do it, but it's not worth it because it's like I have to go teach another agency how to be better, but the client is paying us half the money that we probably would have been charging them to manage both. So it's like, here, can you take half the price and make your competitor smarter? It's like, not really. Don't want to. It's not in our best interest. Unfortunately, it's our best interest to teach you, but it's up to the client to do what the client's going to do for the best for their business. So we teach them, but I struggle to try. I've been on more calls than I can count with other agencies by saying, here's how you should do this. And it pains me because it's like, come on, like, I never went to, I don't walk into a doctor's, operating room with a scalpel and be like, I should figure this out. Like, no, don't do that. So it's always an awkward conversation. All right. How do you optimize campaigns? Oh, actually, I wonder if I can show. Hey, look at that. Cool. Now you guys don't have to just see, just me talking to myself. You get to actually see the things on the screen, which is pretty sweet. How do you optimize campaigns using auto bid strategy? Since adding seemingly irrelevant keywords to negative lists is a bit dangerous due to Google putting less emphasis on what a person searches. Yes. So this is a good question that spawned those things like feeder strategy. So typically, if you're optimizing campaigns using auto bidding, so maximize conversions, maximize conversion value, target return on ad spend, and target cost per acquisition. So your main four kind of auto bidding. Max clicks can be auto bidding, but it's not conversion based, so it's less important. But if you're using those type of automated bidding strategies, I typically like to do a low TROAS or a high TCPA target. It allows it to breathe a bit. Don't think about your targets as a target. It's this, I don't know why Google did this. Well, actually, I do know why Google did it, but they shouldn't have done it. Your targets should never be considered a target. They should be considered a floor or a ceiling. What I mean by that is they should not be thought of as, I want a 300, I got a 300. You should say, if my campaign is good, set it at 40, set it at 60% TROAS. Or set, if I want a $200 lead, I'll set it at $500 TCPA. They are bumpers. If you ever bowled with like a 7-year-old, or maybe you're just really bad at bowling and use bumpers, I don't judge. But if you use bumpers during bowling, those are your TCPA and TROAS targets. If you set your TROAS targets and TCPA targets too strict, meaning they're too close together, your ball can't even go down the lane. It's too tight for it to fit there. It can't actually function. If you set it really, really wide, you can hit a gutter because the bumpers are way far out past the lane. So you want to set a target TCPA or ROAS to what they call like a bumper, where it's a little bit tighter, but you have still room to breathe. You have still room to move. I'll share with you an example, and I'll get this pulled up here because this is a really, really common misconception. Mike, I almost made this entire YouTube live today this topic for discussion, because I get asked this probably 3 or 4 times a week. I'm not within YouTube live on tier 11, the U versus Google. We've already done a video on Revenue Rush for it. The school programs that I'm teaching, the mastermind, the driven mastermind that I'm in. Like, I get this question a lot. So I'm going to take like 2 minutes on here just because this is a really important topic and we have some time. So I think that we're good for our half hour. Yep. So here's what I wanted to share with everyone. This is how this works here. I'm going to take the campaigns that I just launched. Now, there is 3 campaigns I launched, and we launched them. I don't remember exactly when. There we go. We launched these things on the 11th. So it's only been 10 days. Well, yeah, the 11th. You can see the clicks and conversions instantly happen. It just boop, immediately. You can see this having really, really, really simple performance. The cost and the conversion value immediately had great success. On the first day, we spent $1,200, made $1,800. On day 2, we spent $1,200, made $5,000. In 2 days, brand new campaigns. These things have never run before. You can hit all time, and you can see that they just started right now. I emphasize this because this is how important this is. Setting something up right the first time, because people are like, well, I need weeks, I need months. You got to teach an algorithm. No, that's all bullshit. It is. It's all bullshit. Complete bullshit. What I mean by that is Google does learn. Yes. Google does feed. Yes. All that's good stuff. But there is very, very few times, 10% or less, where you say, here's a new campaign, 300% ROAS target, boop, hit 300% ROAS. Not with that structure. Now, jewelry here is an outlier. That's why you'll see this one being $100. No one thought this was going to go good. So we're like, no, let's just not really run it. So we're like, that's fine. So let's just do these other 2. This is the 2 that I actually want to focus on. This is pretty much it. My ROAS targets are 60%. 60. I'm not getting a 60%. I'm getting a 400 and 500. This is all non-brand, by the way. I can prove it. But it starts off with a 60% ROAS target, because this is where I say, hey, if you're good, you'll get a 400 and 500. If you're bad, you'll get a 60. If you're bad, you won't really get a 40. Ad spend will stop. But that's the floor. If you go below 60, pullback spend. What a high ROAS target like 300% would say is, if you're not having a great day, kill the entire account forever. Because once it falls below the 300% threshold, it pulls back spend, and it's impossible for it to scale. Not possible, but it's very, 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 very difficult for it to just say, hey, you know what? I found out, I figured it out, and I scaled back up. You're welcome. It doesn't do that. So you want to set it on a low ROAS target, and you want to do all of your work up front. Feed optimizations, your titles, the proper SKUs that you should be marketing. Don't just throw everything in there. That's why you can see all dresses and best-selling apparel. See how this one's 73% or 77, I can't count. 87% better than this one here. Well, 87 percentile points, 413 up to 500. So it is better, but that's by design. So you do your research first, and you say, okay, I think this campaign is going to work. Then it doesn't matter what the ROAS is. Do the work first. And I can set ROAS of 10. I'll still get a 500%. Doesn't matter. So this is the proper, when it says a target ROAS, and it's like, what is your target? It's not target. It says, hey, what does it have to go below before I finally say, okay, now just kill the campaign? 60%. It leaves it to be aggressive. My CPCs could be high. My click-through rates could be good quality. My positioning can be excellent. And I can hit really good results in $15 CPAs. But that's because it's the work beforehand, before you launch the campaign. If you're not looking at titles, descriptions, categories, GTINs, and feed optimizations, imagery. If you're not doing all that pricing, competitiveness, keyword research, and so that you do your feed optimizations like your headlines. If you don't do any of that and you just throw it in there and hit a 300% ROAS, it dies. So do good work first. You can set a low target. Same thing with TCPA. If I was expecting $15 conversions, I'd set my target cost per acquisition to 100. I'll still get 15. It's a floor and a ceiling. That's how you have to think about those. It's always floor and it's always ceiling. Okay. Continue on. Oh, it says continue. There's a part 2 to that question. Oh man. It won't be like another 20 minutes, I promise. I just wanted to take some time to explain how the bidding strategy's target is not a target. It's a floor or a ceiling. All right. The next one. For and more on behavior when using auto bidding. Okay, so let me just put these together. How do you optimize campaigns using auto bid strategy? Says seemingly irrelevant keywords and bid. Yep, emphasis. Yep, it's mostly due to pre. And then for negative keywords, I really barely use negative keywords, honestly. All of the work, and especially in shopping, should be done beforehand. You shouldn't really see much negative keywords because your feed optimizations are good. Titles and descriptions are plentiful. If you have to add negative keywords, wait until you have kind of like what they call enough information for it to be useful. So what I mean by that is if you're doing search and you're using auto bidding and you're seeing irrelevant search terms, if you see one impression, one click, and an irrelevant search term, if you negate that, you're like the cop that shows up like after the murder has been to try to stop it. Like it's one impression, one click, and one search, and it might be odd. Like that may never happen again. So you may add a negative keyword like, haha, I've ensured that they won't die any further. Like it doesn't really do anything. So you want to make sure that it's like, okay, if I'm going to add it as a negative keyword, is there more than like 30 or 40 impressions? Is it more than like 2 or 3 clicks? Is it something I think that if I continue to scale spend, it's going to continue to happen? If so, then yes, kill it. But don't go too crazy where you're like, oh my God, every single one of these is irrelevant. Yeah, I mean, you might see that there's like some no clicks and 1 impressions. You don't have to negate those if you're not getting clicks on it, but make sure you have enough to say like, hey, this is actually going to take effect. Otherwise, you're just spinning your wheels. Now, putting emphasis on what a person searches and for, and what a person searches for, and more behavior for and more on behavior when using auto bidding. Yes. So what Google will do is necessarily look at who is seemingly right to convert, not the search term. That's where feeder strategy came in. The feeder strategy is 2 search campaigns, a max click on exact, and a TCPA or ROAS on broad. Broad will get odd search terms, but they convert well. That's what's really interesting is that it says, hey, I know that John is wanting these shoes. He just Googled like camping boot. I don't know, something weird like what the hell's a camping boot? But we know, John, it's regarding shoes, and I think I can get a conversion. Broad match will click it. It'll match it, and it'll convert. Now, it doesn't mean that camping boot should be negated or not negated. It just means that that's what the person that Google identified did that day before they clicked and got the conversion. It knows what they're going to do because they've seen them before. What if they haven't seen them before? Well, they have seen them before just from other online activity. So do you risk the online activity of your customer clicking on your competitor's ad, hope they don't buy so that you can get your next chance and Google can increase your CPC by 3 times? There's feeder strategy. Max click exact match. You get great quality search terms at low CPCs. They just may not buy yet. That's okay. You're teaching your e-com prodigy. Here's what the person is and what they're interested in. Now, when they're getting ready to convert, send Performance Max at them and hunt them down on search up YouTube, GSP, Discover, Display. Go find them when they're ready to buy. What's the search term? Doesn't matter. Or let them search whatever they want in the future. If it's close enough, probably in the market, go after them. That's broad. So those two work together. We're simply replacing the online ecosystem that teaches the algorithm who the audiences are with our own ecosystem that teaches our own tag who these people are. That's max clicks. All right. When it comes to manual bidding versus auto bidding for new campaign, if we choose manual CPC, then we start with exact match keywords since it isn't a conversion focused bid strategy. So campaign needs to be more targeted and honed in to avoid wasteful spend. Not really. You can see in here when things are looking good, you can set a whatever you want target ROAS or TCPA, and it will instantly kick off and have amazing success. I do it all the time. What you would say is, I don't think that it needs to be more targeted, it needs to learn more. My emphasis to you would be to use a feeder strategy in e-com or search, like whatever you would want to use, but spend your time in your keyword research. Intentful keywords, best, top performing, most reviewed, near me, whatever it is. Spend some time identifying high intent keywords. You can use ChatGPT. That will then launch your campaign into more immediate success. Then it says, hey, I tried your idea, and then I tried some broadly ones. I kind of found some ones that you didn't think about, and I'm trying to go after them. That's what typically people do, the learning experience. Spend the time in keyword research. You'll be 10 times faster. I promise you, just like how the demonstration I showed you. All right, John Moran's dog. How do you optimize Google Ads for direct-to-consumer apparel client when the top category is 50% return rate, referring to customers returning their products, while others have low as 10? Here's actually, I just dealt with this, and I thank you for bringing this up again, because I think the last week we didn't get to touch on this. If there's a 50% return rate, that is something that is not really possible to solve within traffic driving. Really isn't. There is something on the site that is misleading them, or they haven't done enough explaining to the fact that, hey, this is something wrong with it. What should be your next step is, why are the customers returning their products half the time? Is it a misunderstanding? Is it fitting wrong? Is it oversold, overpromise, underdeliver? Are they Temu? Where it's like, hey, Playground, it's this big when it arrives. Like, what's going on there that people are like, oh my God, and they're sending it back half the time? You will not traffic your way out of that. That is not a keyword issue at all. But some things, for example, tungsten rings have a ring sizing chart that people can print out, punch a hole, put their finger in. We've done that before. Works very well. It's like ring size number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there's literally rings on the page, and you print it out at 100% scale, cut it out with an X-Acto knife, stick it on your finger. If it's snug, that's your size. That reduced a ton of our tungsten ring purchase return rates. They were by 40% or some of that. Plus, they started coming back and order more. So our unit per order went up. The second thing is like dresses. Fits true to size. Order one size larger than typical. Compare it. Do something that is going to even giving you the measurements. If you're wanting a size medium, it has this waist, this bust, this length. Put the actual inches and millimeters or centimeters. Sorry, I don't know Europe. Put your inches and your centimeters on that page. So there has to be something there that is fixing that before you get screwed up. And because it's D2C apparel, I'm assuming it's probably dresses or maybe some kind of female clothing, because that's typically who buys clothes online. I would really look at, how do we get the measurements and the fit proper before they order on the PDP, big, bold, right underneath, like fit chart, fit guide, fit size, something that does that, because it's either a bad product that's good price, or it's just not thoroughly being explained. My opinion, don't even market this yet. Don't even run ads to it until it's figured out. Spend your money elsewhere. You really can. If there is other things that are working well, it's your top category, but it's not actually your top category. If you look at your top category is how many have been sold that have not had a 50% return rate. That's your top category. So I'd push your ad spend into there while you figure this out. That's my opinion. This is not solvable with paid media. Lily Boy. Was one of the first 2-3 years ago trying their YouTube forum, kind of like Facebook lead ads. It was full of spam and looked legit. Loop of hell. Yeah. It's funny. It's not even Facebook. It's not even YouTube forums too. It's even now like clicks to the site too, which is crazy. They'll actually make it to the destination and start filling things out. It's weird. All right. Feeder strategy is based on RLSA only. Doesn't work without RLSA. So we actually don't use RLSA at all. It's not RLS based at all. It's actually algorithmically based. I'll share with you what I mean. This is a really important thing for people to understand, because people believe that, and this is what I believe too. This is how it's sold, I should say. People believe that Google is so smart that they'll say, I think 33 Big Money, great name, by the way. I think 33 Big Money is going to search, and I don't think they're going to buy. Now, in come first-time searcher John and says, oh, John's here. First time searching. I believe he is going to buy. That's not what happens. It's not that it's so good at predicting. It's that it's using our ideas, all of yours, all of our collective non-Google people's strategies, like the remarketing list for search ads that were created by our community. They are now using that and charging us for it 3 times more than actually 6 times more than we used to pay for it, 3 times more than anybody else would. What I mean by that is, typically with RLSA, we target audiences who have been on our website, and we do a negative bid adjustment down. We say, hey, if you bet on our website, rather than a $3 bid, I'm going to bid, maybe $1. I don't want to keep paying high fees and high CPCs for people to continually return. What Google did is said, I can make money off that. They said, I'm going to use that same exact strategy, but when I believe that they're going to return, I'm going to make you pay 5 times more, not 80% less, which is what we used to do with RLSA. I'm going to make you pay 5 times more now, because we know it's going to convert and you're going to make money. And the CPC that I get to dictate to charge to you is not based in competition anymore. That's why my Google is price fixing thing went so viral. It's because it's like, yeah, everyone's like, holy crap, that's actually what's happening. So it's a matter of fact that they actually say, we think this person's going to convert. So I'm going to wait until 33 big money comes back, because I think 33 big money is going to convert. I'm going to wait for 33 big money. Make sure you use broad. So whenever big money starts to search something again, I can pounce on big money, and I'm going to charge you for it because you have a 100% to 200% TROAS goal. You pay $2. I can charge you $6 for this, and I can still hit that goal. So let's wait. Well, how do we know it waits for that? Because the campaign doesn't spend. Give it $1,000 a day. Why is it only spending 200? It has a ton of more people it can go after. Absolutely. Will it predict all of them? No. It wouldn't hit goal, which is why it doesn't spend. What does it do? It waits for 33 big money to come back. Well, that sounds good, but how do you prove it? Okay. I'm going to pull up this here, and I'm going to go into a funnel vision, and I'm going to share with you some proof. Really, really, really crazy stuff, actually. So I don't actively manage this campaign. This is another client, but it is very important to see some very specific metrics that will explain this scenario. So let me actually just make this about less 7 days. I will share screen here in a moment. It's just loading. Well, you just watch it load with me. I'll share the boring wealth. All right, so this is loading. And attribution settings. Okay, good. Good predict. Full funnel. Okay, cool. So this here, for example, this is a non-brand DSA. Now, for just out there in the ecosystem, all of these here are, or most majority of them, pretty much all of them, are using some sort of TCPA or TROAS. Now, when you have something like a Google Shopping Network, the top welders, this Google Shopping is spending $2,200 and getting $9,000 in new revenue. Excellent. Getting $6,000 in return revenue. Excellent. Spend $2,200 and got $15,000 in revenue. Excellent. Of 23% new visits, where the effective cost per new visit is $6.16. The brand campaign, 17% new visit with $16 cost per new visit. Yeah, of course. Now, what's interesting about this is obviously the brand's going to spend $2,500 and make $12,000, but this one's going to spend $2,200 to make $15,000. It's the only reason why is because there's not really that much difference of an audience. Not really. Not in terms of new versus returning. We're only getting 6% more new traffic in the non-brand campaign. That means that 76.1% of everybody that comes into our standard or our standard shopping campaign, 75% of these people have already been there before. So is it really good at predicting? No, it's really good at getting the first click and waiting. And the tighter your TROAS goal is, or the tighter your TCPA goal is, the more finite, the smaller audience it is. And 1,000 people go down to 12 people. And it's like, cool, I'll get you 1,000 ROAS, but I got to wait for these 12 people to come back. That's why I can only spend $12 a week. So you can see this here, where all of these campaigns that are using TROAS and TCPA have good performance, but I don't think we have 1 over 30. We don't even have a campaign that hit 30% cold traffic. And that's because it uses an RLSA in its algorithm. We don't use an audience of an RLSA. It does it for you. So the feeder strategy is, can I bring new users to the site, ping that RLSA that we know that Google's using in the TCPA and TROAS campaign, feed it a whole bunch of cheap traffic with high intent, which means max clicks with exact match. Once they get in there, it says, okay, now I'm going to wait for these people. That's TROAS is going to wait. It's going to do it. It's going to wait. But if I can load it up with 1,000 people, it's going to wait for, rather than 100 people, it's going to wait for, it scales. Feeder strategy. Cool. Next, I noticed that low TROAS will give you 3x the target on average. Yeah, it's pretty much good. Now, what's funny is if I was getting 500% ROAS on a 40% TROAS, if I took that 40% TROAS and bumped up to a 400% TROAS, it was getting 5, I'd kill the campaign. Because what it's doing is deciding two different things. A TROAS target or TCPA says, do you know or do you think? If the answer is, I'm not sure if I know and I'm not sure if I think, which means I don't know I can convert somebody and I don't think these people will convert, that's the higher your TROAS target or the lower your TCPA target, the more restrictive it gets. Hey, don't spend $1 unless you're going to make me 10x. Oh man, I don't know or think anybody would do that. Won't spend. So that's how the ROAS and TCPA targets work, is they're not a target. We should just call it ceiling TCPA and floor ROAS. Yeah, that works. I got those mixed up, I thought. But ceiling and floor, that's what they should have been called, not target. It's bumpers. It's not a bullseye, it's bumpers. It guides you to there. It allows the flexibility in breathing. Higher quality campaigns you have, you don't really need a ROAS target. I just put it on there because ROAS will wait, which is good. I can feed it, which is good. It scales up in consistency. When it works and continues to work because it's working, so it scales. All of those pieces there are good with the ROAS and TCPA target. I just don't rely on it to get there on its own. I know how to manipulate it because I know the functionality of it. And that's what's important to know, is how TCP and ROAS actually work. You can use maximize conversions. You can use maximize conversion value. That's great starting off for sure. Like, just let it ride. It's going to overspend. It's going to over CPC. It's going to figure out where it gathers those people. I like feeder strategy better because I can do the same thing more effectively. You can do it. It doesn't really matter. Either one is fine. But just know that when you start to push into, okay, I've got good scale, good consistency, everything's fine, stick a low ROAS or a high TCPA target. Sometimes just let it go. I mean, you saw in 2 days a 60% ROAS target in 2 different campaigns hit 400 and 500%. It's not impossible. You just need to do a lot of the work beforehand. It's not a skill, in my opinion, to take 1,000 products, stick it in shopping, throw a 5% ROAS, and cross your fingers. It's not a skill. That's a gamble. And you're getting paid to gamble. Take some pride. Like, say, hey, I'm going to look through the feed optimization, I'm going to look at the title, what image is showing up. Is it the right geographical location? Is there a better one? Or is our pricing right? Do we sell on Amazon? What's our competition doing? Is there a sale? What's email doing? You have to look at all that and say, okay, all of those line, now I can do it. Don't gamble with your client's money. Be better. Do a skill. All right. Lucas, hey, John, we have implemented the shopping feeder strategy. We have standard shopping at $940 a day at 280%, and a feed only at $420 a day at 300%. Those two are pretty close targets, 280 and 300. That might cause a lot of competition. Your ad rank might be pretty similar between the two of them. The feed only does barely get spend. Are the goals too close? Hey, yeah. So absolutely. So the feeder strategy, the one that you want to be aggressive and get the first clicks, I would take your 280 standard shopping. I'd bring that bad boy down to 100. Really drop that thing down there. You want the clicks to come into standard shopping. You want the revenue to come into standard shopping, but also a lot in PMAX. And the reason why you want that is because you don't want your first click to always win. It's not really possible. That's what standard shopping is. That's why this shit's so hard, is because in standard shopping, it's like, okay, I got to get my first click in this group of people. And if that first click doesn't convert, I'm dead. I'm done. Oh my God, turn off my computer, cry. That's the first click of that person's journey. That's what we have to understand. It's their first click in the journey. You're saying, no. People have to see my ad, love me so much, and buy immediately. Doesn't happen. That's where Performance Max comes in. So your standard shopping campaign, you want high amount of inbound traffic with very good placement. Remember this here. So again, the reason why, and I'm just going to share screen again because this is extremely important for people to see this. Actually, let me do this before I publicly share 440 Google Ads accounts. Let me get into it first so I don't just really piss off everybody I've ever known. All right. This one here. Okay. So it's coming up. I promise. And there we go. All right. So the reason why these two are working, there we go. All right. So if I filter these two campaigns, you can see this one's like going up nice here, and it's scaling up well. This EDD standard shopping has got a 65 and the PMAX has got a 53. These two are really, really, really close targets. Again, I don't really care. I want them both to blow up to the moon. So whatever it is, this is getting a 105 off 53. It's getting a 95 off to 65. Again, 101% scale from cost of $1,600 a day to $7,000 a day. Great. Just blast. So they're close, but they're so low, they're actually not really doing anything. One just has a slightly better ad rank. But if you look at the CPCs, 60 cents on Performance Max, but $3.50 as standard shopping. Why is it $3.50? Well, because when I type in a really good broad keyword that everyone's going after, like Amazon and Mudwater and all these people up here, I want to be first. I am number one. So this is me right here. This is the company. You can see that I don't want to say it out loud because we're going to blur this later, but that brand name right there is the same brand name as there. And I'm going to beat everybody with feeder strategy because my first click, I want my first click to be right there. First considered, first thought of, first seen, first impression. I get all of that. You don't look at, Rise or Amazon. You look at me first. And if I might be first considered and I want to be first clicked. So that standard shopping campaign, you don't want it to really win a lot of money. You want it to win a lot of people. You need high CPC. A 280% ROAS target on standard shopping will give you low CPC. You're not going to be first. You're not going to be first considered. You'll be fourth considered, fifth considered, maybe. They're going to say, I might buy that one. 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 Wait a minute. Who's Lucas? Not a really, you better have a fucking kick-ass, price and product to be like, whoa, this guy and this product is way better than the other four. If not, I wouldn't risk it down there. So make sure that your first click on standard shopping is first considered. That's how the mind works. If it's like, man, I want some mushroom coffee. Have you ever heard of Everyday Dose? No, what's that? Don't worry about that one. Let's tell you about something else. It's like, wait, what about that? I want to know what that is. You told me about that first. Why was that first in your mind? That's important to me. That's a priority for some reason. So you want to know what that first thing is. And then Google knows that. That's why they charge you so much for it. Make sure that you get there first, though. The second thing is once they click, you want your feeder strategy, or sorry, your feed only one to be like the next 60-cent clicks. Search, shopping, YouTube, GSPs, discover, display. That is going to just follow them around for a week or two. You already spent the money to get the attention, standard shopping. Now spend a little bit less CPC, but higher volume in reminding them and going after them, Performance Max. So separate those up so that your standard shopping gets good placement. And then you can even crank up your feed only to 500% ROAS. Should work. It will split them out. But that's if you're not scaling, from 1K a day to 7K a day in this one campaign in about, a month. We're trying to get them to blow up. All right, Larry. Hi, John. Sorry, I have too broad for a specific answer, but any thoughts on how long it takes to train Google to find conversions you want once you tweak what you send to Google as best conversion? It's not really, I haven't actually honestly found an area where it's like, yes, Google's finally giving me what I want in terms of the quality or anything. What we know is how to make sure that it doesn't take too long to get started. So if you're like, hey, I'm confident in my keyword strategy, my landing page looks good, my site speed is fast, my titles and descriptions are optimized, this feed has got, GTINs because I'm reselling it, all of those things. Once you check all the boxes, all the way down to site speed and description and all the human interaction, then you're like, okay, now low T ROAS, high TCPA, $100 a day, hit the gas. You're done. That part's easy. The hard part is getting all the way up to that point. Building a proper, website, great quality product, good imagery, good video, good social proof, good sale price, good, everything else that basically, you need to actually sell the customer and then drive the traffic. Remember, for Meta and Google, we drive traffic. It's really what we do. We drive traffic. We're not marketers. We're not really even digital marketers. Not really. If you're going to focus on paid media primarily, we drive traffic. So when you kind of take a bit of an ego out of it and say, are you good marketing? No, I never went to college for marketing. I don't even know, if you're talking about a target avatar, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm not professional, do this all day with building avatars. Someone in marketing at the company that pays me to drive their traffic probably is better than that to me. But we drive traffic. So it's not necessarily, hey, you're going to get shit traffic until Google learns. It's you can send fantastic traffic if you have good feed and good search keyword. You can drive a lot of it with good placement, good positioning, good considerations if you have a good bidding strategy with a low TROs or high TCPA target. But everything else, like the conversions, that happens if the website is good. You're very rarely going to say, hey, Google got so smart, it convinced people on their first visit that they actually want the shitty product. Doesn't happen. Google will never get that smart. Doesn't matter. People are like, yeah, I hate your product. So the traffic driving is actually fairly simple. It does take some time, but you got to go through all of this foundational steps before you build the second floor, which is feeder strategy. Make sure that you have a good product, you have good feed, you have good website, it's fast, it's mobile friendly. All of those things, that's visual. They can see it, they understand, they have context. Go through the four things, the have and have nots, the daily feels, the life, and then the status. Are you changing each one of those in your content? Don't skip all that. Those be got a product, put it on page, drive traffic. It didn't work. You got to humanize it a lot. Cool. All right. We're coming up on time. Let's see. And the guy from Rise is here in the chat and just reverted his strat. Right? It's funny. I hope so. It'd be awesome. We have so much room to grow, like in this mushroom coffee, like kind of area, that there is literally no one that is going to own this space, not for the foreseeable future, unless you have like, 5 million a day. There's so much room to grow. So yeah, let's all jump together and let's all drink mushroom coffee together. It's fun. Let the games begin. Damn, that was a fantastic, awesome answer. You're very welcome, Larry. It's a good way to kind of humanize yourself, kind of bring it back to reality. And that part was where I got really good at Google Ads, was after like learning the bidding strategies and how they work and the algorithms, how they work, is really humanizing. Like, forget everything you've ever known about Google Ads. Remember, it doesn't even exist. And do a Google search and look and say, what do I notice first? Damn, like that might tell you. It might actually really, kind of turn you on to, okay, I'm starting to think about this differently. Like if I'm a 47-year-old mother of 3 with 2 kids crying and 1 kid hungry, and I need to get like a new bottle, what do I want to do? That's going to be different than, I'm looking at a $5,000 solar generator. That might be, a 3-month time period. What do I need to know? What do I need to decide? Like, you want to build your marketing off of how people buy things, and then say, okay, how do I leverage the settings in order to be more matched up with the user? How do I make sure that I'm not just going to get one-click standard shopping on a $10,000 product? They never buy 10 grand worth of product on the first click. So yeah, maybe second on the page is okay, because now I have a higher volume and I can wait longer. Cool stuff like that. So yeah, just always kind of keep that human aspect while you're thinking about the ways to do marketing. All right, everybody, I appreciate it. That was hard. I'm just gonna say, just talking here like an hour by myself. I mean, obviously you're all here, so I appreciate it. But yeah, that was fun. Appreciate it, Ollie. Thanks for the kudos. The same thanks, Larry. This is awesome stuff. So I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving, because I probably won't see you until then. Awesome, everyone. Thanks.